Cardiovascular disease, CVD, is a significant public health concern responsible for 11% of over 2 million non-communicable disease deaths in Nigeria annually. Now, it is also responsible for a high burden of morbidity and disability. Most people with CVDs are not aware until catastrophes like stroke, heart attack, or death occur. So, how much do you really know about the heart? How much care do you think your heart requires? Do you know how important the heart is? A little hint. Now, heart diseases are said to be both preventable and reversible when identified early. Prevention can be accompanied by addressing the risk factors of tobacco use, unhealthy diet, obesity, physical inactivity, and harmful use of alcohol. They can be treated if people with the disease are at high risk due to having hypertension, diabetes, or hyperlipidemia are identified early with their conditions appropriately managed. Now, sit back, relax, and sip on something if you like. It's a World Heart Day, and we have experts in the studio who will tell you all you need to know about your heart. Welcome to Nigeria Today. I am Victor Azu. Now in the studio to discuss heart care is Dr. Murtala Ngabia. He is a consultant cardiologist and head of medicine at the Maitama District Hospital here in Abuja. Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Good evening, viewers. Thank you.
Now joining us via Skype from Kano is Professor Mahmoud Umar Sani, also a consultant cardiologist, Department of Medicine, Bayero University, and Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital. Professor Sani is also the Vice President, Nigerian Cardiac Society of Nigeria. It's a pleasure to have you join us, Prof.
Good evening, viewers, and thank you for having me.
Now, let me stay with you, Prof, since I can hear you clearly. Very briefly, give us further insights into the nature of heart diseases and risk factors, perhaps.
Well, heart diseases or cardiovascular diseases are disease conditions that arise that affect the heart and its vessels. And they have quite a variety of causes, as from congenital causes when children are born with heart diseases to acquired causes when disease happens and people are exposed to risk factors for the disease and they develop cardiovascular disease. The reason why heart disease are very important is because they are the #1 cause of death globally, and especially in the developing world, especially Nigeria. They cause about almost 18 million deaths globally, and this death is projected to be 23 million in the year 2030. And another very important reason why we are worried about heart disease is the fact that many of the causes of heart disease are actually behavioral. So if you actually adjust our behavior and live a heart-healthy life, we are going to end up reducing the burden of these diseases and also reduce the burden of death as a result of these diseases.
Now, some have argued that women with irregular menstruation, specifically polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS they call it, have a higher risk of heart problems. Would you be kind enough to expatiate on this?
But I didn't get what you said, sorry?
I said some have argued that women with irregular menstruation, specifically polycystic ovary syndrome, have a higher risk of heart problems. Will you be kind enough to expatiate on this?
Yeah, polycystic ovary syndrome is hormonal disease, and women who are in the reproductive age have some protection from heart disease because of their hormones, the estrogen. So when they become menopause, when they get to menopause, the prevalence of heart disease equals that of men. So actually, that syndrome kills the balance of the hormones in women and predispose them to having cardiovascular diseases. That is why polycystic syndrome, because it tilts the balance in the hormone in women, predispose them to having cardiovascular disease.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Sani, for your opening shots. Back here in the studio, Dr. Ngabia has been waiting very patiently. Now, Doc, is there any specific way of taking care of the heart? What might the do's and don'ts be to ensure a healthy heart?
Okay. Of course, definitely, there are quite a number of things that can be done to prevent heart disease, specifically, and diseases generally. Your question, if I am to paraphrase it, you're talking about prevention,
Yes.
of heart disease, or what we call cardiovascular disease. Prevention, you talk about it in terms of, there are three different forms of prevention. You talk about primordial prevention, you talk about primary prevention, you talk about secondary prevention, and you talk about tertiary prevention. The one that many people don't know about quite specifically is primordial prevention. For example, we know that family history plays a significant role when it comes to heart diseases. So, for those that have mothers, fathers, siblings, who have the much higher chances of developing heart disease. So, we would like to start the prevention at the primordial stage, either before birth or before the child reaches the age of 2 years, for example. Okay. Yes. Okay. If you know that if parents are hypertensive and they are diabetic, you know that diabetes, when Professor Sani was talking about causes, risk factors, diabetes is also one of the common risk factors for cardiovascular disease. So parents should make sure that their children right from birth are not exposed to risk factors, or some of the risk factors, like taking salt.
Too much of it or at all?
Too much of salt. Okay. For example, I'm talking about right from birth to 2 years. Taking sugary foods. By so doing, they preserve the heart and the pancreas, which is responsible for diabetes. So at that point in time, prevention should start at that early stage.
Now, you are talking about those who have the tendency to develop heart diseases. Now, what of those who, just for the purpose of health check, that just want to check to be sure that the heart is good, there is no history of heart diseases? At what age could such an individual, begin to check on the heart?
Okay, before now, we used to recommend 40 years, but the trend is changing actually. People are developing some of these conditions in much early stages of life. So from 25 to 30, I will recommend that people should start taking their heart and general health check more seriously. Because
how often now? How often?
It seems, well, yearly checkup will be okay. That's for hospital check, that's for laboratory check. But in terms of blood pressure measurement, it should be at every opportunity.
Okay.
At every opportunity that is available. If one goes nearby where he sees, accompany somebody to the hospital, and the person is seeing the doctor, you see somewhere, the nurse is there, check your BP.
Because those are basics.
But that's the basic. Anytime you have the opportunity of entering the hospital, check your blood sugar. So, that is the recommendation. And we are talking about, like I said earlier, you are talking about primary prevention now, trying to avoid the disease.
Okay.
Trying to avoid the disease. All the things that one is supposed to do to avoid the disease.
At least to reduce the risk.
It's the risks, the chances of developing the disease, whether there's family history or there's no family history, as the age comes.
You just check.
You just keep on checking and keep on. Basically, cardiovascular disease, they are what we call lifestyle disease.
Okay.
They are basically, you can be summarized as
Apart
lifestyle.
from a history
Apart
of
from the
it.
family history, lifestyle, is a combination, is a combination of nature and nurture.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Ngabia. Let me get back to Dr. Sani. Professor Sani, I beg your pardon. Now, Prof, it's World Heart Day, and world leaders have committed to reducing global mortality from non-communicable diseases, and the heart is one of those. Is Nigeria doing enough, in your opinion?
Well, actually, I would say that Nigeria is trying because the Prime Ministry of Health has quite a number of programs which it has engaged many professionals as well as societies in Nigeria, including our own society, Nigerian Catholic Society, Nigerian Christian Society, in terms of awareness campaign, in terms of programs that will define the burden of these diseases in Nigeria. And that will lead to policy formulations that will lead to prevention of heart diseases. That is one. Already there is also legislation on tobacco smoking in public. Are you aware of it? All these are things that government has really put in place to actually help the citizens of the country to prevent heart disease. And that's not to say there is still more to be done, because if you compare us with other African countries as well as the advanced countries, you realize that they really have reached advanced stage in establishing policies for prevention of heart disease. So I would say that Nigerian government is doing its best, but that it still needs to be done in terms of engagement with the professionals, in terms of legislation to prevent heart diseases in the country.
Okay, Dr. Sani, Professor Sani, thank you. Now let me get back to Dr. Ngabia. This year's theme, because we are still talking about the World Heart Day, this year's theme is the use of heart to beat COVID-19. Is there a relationship here between the heart and COVID-19? What's the meaning?
Okay, you can look at the theme both literally, and then you can look at it figuratively. Okay. Looking at it literally, you are trying to talk about how COVID-19 affects the heart. But if you want to look at it figuratively, you're talking about trying to put yourself in the good frame of mind, okay, to be able to combat COVID-19. I would like to look at it more towards that direction. The heart is viewed as the center of all emotions. So, of course, you need to be in a good frame of mind. You need to be a good frame of the heart, to be able to observe all the protocols that are associated with combating COVID-19. Having said that, of course, there are quite complications or how COVID-19 affects the heart. For example, it comes with pericarditis, that's fluid surrounding the heart. When, it affects also, since it affects the lungs commonly, and the lungs are closely related to the heart, so that goes alone. And of course, that for every cause of death, the heart would have to affect the heart one way or the other first before somebody can die. So, it's the systems are interlinked completely.
All right. It's time for us to take a break, a brief one indeed. And when we return, Nigeria Today continues. Please don't go away.
So what to do to keep our heart healthy? First of all, you have to ensure that you keep fit. Regular exercise, you wake up, you do small exercise in your room before you go for the physical exercise at your point of exercise is very good. And healthy living, the World Health Organization have said that smoking is not good for your health. There are health implications. Those that smoke definitely will have health implications because they won't have the energy to do the exercise that we do regularly.
And to keep your heart healthy, you should not be pressure your heart all the time. Yes, you have to be contented all the time. Yes. After that, you support whatever you came to your side. You just thank God and eat very well and sleep.
With regular exercises, when you're new to something, it takes time to get used to it, and when you get used to it, you realize that you do it with ease. Yeah, so basically exercises, when you start exercising, it is going to drain you a lot, but then with time you get used to it and you notice that you handle things easier. You don't feel so much pressure when you do certain things and all that, and I feel that's a very good way to exercise the heart.
I do exercise, then I take the real supplements to boost my heart. Yeah, for those who smokes, it has a lot of effects in their heart. So back then in the village, there was one man that normally smoked in our village. When I look at him, his skin is different from other people. So it's like it is smoking that really affecting him. But he himself, because he's not well educated, he don't know the effect of it. So I advise that those that smoke, so please leave it. It's not really good for their heads.
Quit smoking. It's that simple. I don't think there's no subtle way to tell somebody that you're damaging. Listen, if you're damaging yourself, you're damaging yourself. If I have a friend that smokes, what makes me a good friend if I cannot tell him to his face that, listen, man, this thing is damaging your life. Stop it.
We have to take water first. Then we'll do a regular exercise to keep the heart active. Because when the heart is alive, the body, soul and mind work together. Yeah, it is not easy to stop smoking, but I believe when you are determined, you can actually stop smoking. So a word for them is they should just try and stop smoking for their own benefits.
Okay, interesting perspectives there. You're welcome back, and if you've just tuned in, you're right on time. It is Nigeria Today, and we have been discussing heart care. Two fantastic cardiologists have been my guests. Now, let me get back to Professor Sani. Prof, you must have listened to Nigerians, these are everyday Nigerians on the streets there. With what they have said, would you say that publicity or awareness, creating awareness, is a non-issue?
Thank you very much. I think that the essence of actually the World Heart Day, and indeed all the celebrated days for different diseases, is to create awareness about that disease. I would say that really there has been some awareness in terms of heart disease in Nigeria. Our society has given a press release today about prevention of heart disease, but I would say that we need to do more. We need to get to the grassroots to inform our people, educate the public about those harmful behaviors that predispose individuals to develop heart disease. And all hands will be on deck, and everybody should be involved, from the professionals to the lay people in the street to the media, in actually making this awareness. Because when people are aware, then they have the basic information to make informed decisions about their behaviors and prevent themselves from having these diseases. So I would say that on the comments the public have mentioned, really there is some awareness, but we need to do more, all of us, to improve this awareness, both in our rural communities as well as in our urban areas, to prevent heart diseases.
Still with you, and briefly too, sometimes patients are said to have weak hearts. What causes weakness of the heart? How do you explain that?
Okay, weak heart, in medical terminology, we call it heart failure or the failing heart. So there are several causes of heart failure. What it means is that the heart is actually unable to pump adequately to push blood out of itself to supply the bodies, the parts of the body that need the blood. Because the blood that the heart pumps is the one that carries oxygen, that carries glucose to supply all parts of the body for those parts to function, including walking, including thinking. Everything you do needs blood because the blood carries the ingredient that is taken from the heart to those organs. So when the heart is weak, it means that it's unable to perform that function. And the causes are quite many, but in Nigeria, the commonest cause of failing heart, of heart failure, is hypertension. And hypertension is actually, I would say, partly contributed by behavior. Like Dr. Murtala mentioned, taking of large quantity of salt, lack of exercise, tobacco smoking, obesity, are all risk factors for hypertension. So if we modify our behavior and reduce these risk factors, we are going to reduce the prevalence of hypertension, and by extension, we are going to reduce the prevalence of heart failure in our country, because hypertension is #1 cause of heart failure in Nigeria. But there are many other causes of heart failure, from congenital causes to a blockage of vessels of the heart, to disease of the heart muscle, what we call cardiomyopathy, to diseases of the valves of the heart, what we call rheumatic heart disease in Nigeria. But in the context of prevention, especially as it involves the World Heart Day, I think that hypertension is one important cause of heart failure that we all should know, and we should modify our behavior to prevent the risk factors for high blood pressure or hypertension.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Prof. And let me get back to the studio. We are beginning to run out of time. Talking about heart disease, Doc, how would you explain some risk factors? For instance, can it be hereditary? Or are there factors that can cause heart diseases, especially among children? These days you hear that a child has a hole in the heart and all of it.
Yes, you are talking about commonly heart diseases in children are congenital. That means they are born with it.
Okay.
They are born with it. That itself can be as a result of either they behave some certain behavior that the mother engaged in, while she's pregnant or even before she got pregnant. Okay. Or it can be as a result of exposure to some certain drugs, still on the mother, or it can be generally genetic, inherent in the genes of the mother. So those are congenital. Commonly, children are born with hole in the heart. The heart has 4 chambers. Ordinarily, all chambers are separated. There is no mixing. So, but when the separation is not completely covered, okay, that's what we call hole in the heart, or they have their own medical terms. But of course, if a child is also exposed
okay,
to certain environmental conditions, he can develop heart disease even without being born with it.
Okay. Now, Dr. Murtala Ngabia, it's been a pleasure having you on Nigeria Today. Head of Medicine, Maitama District Hospital, FCT, Abuja. Thank you indeed for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure.
And back to Professor Mahmoud Umar Sani, who joined us via Skype from Kano, consultant cardiologist, Bayero University and Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital. You are also the Vice President, Nigerian Cardiac Society of Nigeria. Thanks for your perspectives. Now, Nigeria Today returns tomorrow at 7:30 in the evening, but you can be sure to watch this and other editions of the program on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. My name again is Victor Azul. Many thanks for your company.